Hello, everybody. This is Alyssa, and we're back with another episode of Bomb Mom Podcast. And I have a super awesome guest with me today. This is Adrianna, also known as Aston's Fine Ass Mama. Welcome to the podcast.
Hello. I'm excited to be here.
I'm so glad that you're here.
I'm super excited. I've been a follower for a while, so I could not wait to get on with you in some capacity.
So, you know what's funny? You were actually one of when I first started the podcast, I got this flood of people that I didn't know at all just following my podcast. But it was crazy because everybody that started following me was all after the same thing. They're on a journey of self-discovery of some sort. They're really learning to love themselves. And you have that same type of content, which I love because that's where I'm at right now. And I remember specifically what you said to me because it really warmed my heart. The comment that you left on my post. I don't know if you remember what you said.
I don't.
So
I've been following you since it came up as a sponsored story one day. Mm-hmm. And I'm like, how am I just finding out about her? And then I just couldn't believe that I didn't know about your podcast already because you did such a great job with how you had all of your how everything looked and the stationery and the content.
Thank you.
How am I just finding out about this person? So I don't know what comment I left, but I know.
So okay, I remember I had just come out with, I think it was actually my second episode. So my podcast was still brand new. This is my second one, but this one was still brand new. Mm-hmm. And I did an episode about having biracial children, and I just said my piece on how I feel as a white woman. And you left a comment under one of my posts, and you just said, "I'm so glad to know you. Glad I found your podcast." And that warmed my heart because I'm this complete stranger just told me that something I said meant something to her, and that meant a lot to me.
Yeah,
it was super sweet.
And I think it was when I'm not sure what was going on in the world at the time, but my son is mixed. And so I always want to make sure that I am learning and being super, I just want him to understand how I want him to understand the importance of being inclusive and also seeing himself as a mixed man in America and what that means. Because he obviously he's been raised by a Black woman. I'm mixed, but I don't really know too much about my heritage for the part that I'm mixed with other than African American. Mm-hmm. And I'm African American and German, but I don't know anything about my German history from my great grandmother, anything like that. Except for if I was to show you a picture of her, you'd be oh yeah, she's 100%. She looked 100%
strong. Okay.
I think she was you in the 60s, her children looked Black, and so when she would go to a store or something, they told her the kids had to stay outside.
Oh my goodness.
So that's how she didn't look like she had any color at all.
Wow.
But anyway, I say all that to say I think I always appreciate when white women in particular understand their privilege as a mom of mixed children, and just how important it is for you to advocate for your children and not pretend that racist issues don't exist in our country. And so I'm assuming that was similar to what the post was about. So I definitely appreciate it. And I just love how you always just show up as yourself.
Thank you.
Online and on your podcast, you don't try to pretend to be anybody but Alyssa.
So I really appreciate you saying that because that's really why I started the podcast, and what I want to portray is just who I am, and I feel like I have important things to say and I want a platform to be able to say them. So I created one for myself. When I made that particular episode and I was thinking about everything beforehand, I was actually nervous because I didn't know how people were going to perceive me. I just told everything the best way that I could from my perception and how I learned and why I feel like these things are important. But I got a lot of mixed reviews. You were somebody who you understood the message that I was trying to portray. I feel a lot of other people took the message not so great.
I was in a clubhouse room one time where basically everybody had different opinions, and they were in biracial relationships. And some moms were like, my kids are black, and then some moms were like, my kid is mixed, and that's the word, and that's it. And or some people was like, I want my child to identify as a white child, like as white, and I'm like, you can't. It's one of those things that we have to talk about as far as like history goes, but as far as like telling people how to raise their children and how they should identify, like that's something you gotta just mind your business on.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I'm not big on telling my kids which way to go in anything. I don't push religion. I don't push gender stereotypes. I mean, my 10-year-old son likes to paint his nails. That's just what he does. And that's fine with me because it makes him happy, and that's what he does, and I don't have a problem with that. You know what I mean? Oh, now they're screaming. You know how it is.
Yeah, I know. And he's only 2, but I know how it is. Like when I'm normally doing like my lives and stuff, he's always like, "Oh, I didn't want you when you weren't doing a live, but let me come interrupt what you're doing."
Oh yeah, for sure. That's my kids too. Oh, you're working now? Let me come see what mommy's doing.
Always. My whole front of my like desk area is like ruined right now. It's crayons and Cheez-Its in the front of me.
Oh my goodness. We just can't have anything for ourselves.
No,
nothing.
I don't not right now, but apparently it never changes.
Oh no, my mom can vouch. I mean, me and my brothers are grown adults, and we still call my mom. It never ends. So tell me more about AstonsMama.com and where that came from.
So I launched my blog in January of this year, January 2022. As a celebration of myself and just my journey that I've been through over the past few years. I like saying Aston's mama instead of mommy because I feel like mama comes with so much wisdom and power versus like just saying mommy. And it's also like, I also was playing with the word baby mama because I'm a single mom. And I think that like the word baby mama has such a negative connotation, or like single motherhood has such a negative connotation. So I was like, no, I like the word mama a lot. And I created the blog as a way to spread awareness on like perinatal health issues, like perinatal depression and mood disorders, different things that can come up, gynecological problems that can come up during pregnancy, as well as sharing my story as a kidney warrior and our story as from our NICU journey. And I also like to just share, like, I try to use my blog also as a way to kind of just dump some emotions that might come up.
Yeah, for sure.
For like things that I might deal with motherhood. So I've been trying to just call that like my honest motherhood chat or blog.
I feel like that's how a lot of creative people are. Their therapy is their art. Like people that are rappers, they put their emotions into their songs. I put my shit into my podcast. You write on your blog. Like I feel like we all have our outlet. And I like your blog. I read through it. And so I had C-sections with all 3 of my kids. My very first C-section was obviously with my first child, Jonathan. I was induced with him. I went to, I had an ultrasound. They told me there was no fluid left. So I immediately he was a big baby. So I immediately went to get induced. What I was told was that his head was like pushing down on my cervix or something, so it wouldn't open, but that went on for hours and hours. So finally they decided that they were going to induce me. I had my daughter a year and 9 months later. I was never told about having a VBAC. I was always pushed the C-section. And I wish I would have had more information when I had my second daughter, because I would have tried everything I could to have her naturally rather than have a C-section with her, because I feel like I read your blog and you kind of felt the way that I did when I found out that I was having a C-section. It devastated me. It messed everything up. I didn't know. I never heard about anybody having a C-section. I was fully prepared to give birth to this child, and then that was ripped away from me.
You were super young too, right?
Yeah, I had my first at 18. My daughter, I had her at 19. So I didn't know my options. And when I had Ethan, because it was so many years later, they told me, no, you've already had two. There's no option to have a VBAC at this
I was
point.
about to say, once you have two, they probably definitely
Yeah, no way. No way.
Yeah.
But I was reading about your experience, and I know that you had some complications during your pregnancy, and I wanted you to kind of talk about that because that's been like a big thing for
Yeah,
you.
so yeah, it's huge. So basically when I found out I was pregnant, um right at a time when I went to get I went to have a meeting with my nephrologist. So I've had kidney failure since my kidneys have been declining since 2009. I was diagnosed in 2009 with kidney disease.
Wow.
And so I've always known dialysis and transplant were in the future. I just didn't know when. And so it just so happened that the week I found out I was pregnant was also the week I was already supposed to be getting set up for surgery to start dialysis. And so I had to wait for that. And so I knew I had a high risk pregnancy because of kidney failure. I knew I would have to be on dialysis during pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
I knew that. I knew I would be on like a high blood pressure medicine and would be predisposed to preeclampsia because I had secondary hypertension. Because of the kidney failure.
Mm-hmm.
So then I got to like, I think 11 weeks or 10, 12 weeks for like a scan, or maybe not, it was 13 weeks. And I went to go get like a scan. And then I found out I had a short cervix. And I found out then like later on, like when I was 16 weeks, I found out I was dilated.
Wow. Oh my goodness.
1 centimeter. And then I needed to start taking a supplement called progesterone in order to keep the cervix, in order to try to harden the cervix and close it. And then they wanted to give me baby aspirin as well to help. I always forget what the baby aspirin is for. I want to say they tell you to start taking it every day for blood pressure. I gotta look it up. Shoot, I should have said it.
I think it's to keep your blood thin, right? It's like a blood thinner.
It is to keep your blood thin, but when you're high risk, they give it to you for something else.
Okay.
I gotta Google it. But basically, I found out I had a short cervix, and I'm like, dang, like I knew I had kidney problems, but a short cervix too. So then I left New York and moved back to Baltimore because I also found out that I had 4 fibroids, which I didn't know that until I became pregnant.
Wow.
It got bigger. So it turned out one of my fibroids was shrinking. I thought I was going into preterm labor at 18 weeks, and they tried to take my child from me until they found out I was having a shrinking fibroid. So I was like,
wait,
okay,
take him from you for what?
They were trying to take him. They were trying to make me like have him give birth because they thought that I was like experiencing complications and pain because of the pregnancy, but I wasn't. It was because I had a shrinking fibroid.
Oh my
But
goodness.
they had already prepped me for surgery and everything. It was the scariest experience.
That's so scary.
Yeah.
So how many weeks pregnant were you when you finally did give birth to him?
27.
Wow, 27 weeks.
Yeah. So after I left New York and I moved back to Baltimore, I went to a 20-week scan and I found out that my cervix was getting shorter and it was funneling, meaning like it was like just super soft and like just opening up so I could go into preterm labor possibly. And I had dilated to 2 centimeters. And then they put me in a hospital to get what you call a pessary. So a pessary, you can get a cerclage or a pessary. So I got a pessary, which is they insert like a little button looking thing to clip on the end of your cervix to kind of keep your cervix closed as long as possible. And then I also was on progesterone every day as well, but I started taking it by mouth.
Okay.
Then a week later, I ended up back in the hospital again for spotting. And they started finding other things that were wrong that I ended up having to stay in the hospital until I gave birth. All right, so I was hoping I would make it till September and like stay in the I didn't care if I had to stay in the hospital for 2 months, 3 months. I wanted him to be safe.
Of course.
But I ended up finding out I had a short cervix and IUGR, which IUGR can be caused from different things in the mom or in the birthing parent that could lead to like basically like it can lead to your child growing small. So Aston was 27 weeks, but he was growing like he stopped growing at like 24 weeks. So that's why he was 1 pound when he was born. So my IUGR was caused by my blood pressure. So my blood pressure was just so strong that it was causing the blood flow. It was messing up the blood flow from me to Aston. And so I actually gave birth prematurely because the blood flow in the umbilical cord reversed, which meant that he was going to start getting toxins instead of good stuff.
Wow, that's scary.
Yeah, and I had waited weeks to see if it would reverse. I had waited weeks to see when it was going to reverse, and I chose not to leave the hospital because I just thought that we would have a better chance of catching the reversal in the hospital, and I could still save him. Because I was told, you could be in the hospital and still have a stillbirth because we're only going to check twice a week. But we recommend that, you don't go home because if you go home, you have to come back twice a week. And I was already on dialysis 6 days a week during my pregnancy.
Wait, so there's this crazy, possibly deadly disease that can possibly go back and forth between you and your son, and they're choosing to only check you twice a week.
Yeah, the thing was they checked me every day, but they only checked the blood flow twice a week.
Oh, that's still so scary, especially when you're dealing with something like that.
Yeah, that's like the procedure for that, apparently.
Wow.
So yeah, they checked that twice every Tuesday and Thursday. So every Tuesday and Thursday for 4 weeks in the hospital, like 4 weeks straight, I would be like, okay, is today going to be the day for my emergency C-section?
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, being in a hospital that long during pregnancy is super depressing and hard. But I am a strong advocate of doing it because the alternative is impossible to imagine. I would much rather try than to not have tried at all,
Yeah, absolutely.
And I ended up being able to take him home later. So we spent 165 days in the NICU after I gave birth at 27 weeks and 3 days.
Wow. He's a little warrior.
Yeah, and he was technically in the NICU for 92 days. So for the other 73 days, he was in like a step down hospital.
Okay.
They teach you how to feed your child, and they just worked really hard with him to get him prepped to be able to be in the real world. But like I was told that we would go to the step down hospital for like 2 weeks. When we got there, the doctor was like, he was very sick, and I do not feel comfortable turning him right around to go home. And I was like, what? Wow. I cried so bad because we had to spend Thanksgiving and Christmas in the NICU, and now I hate Christmas and I hate Thanksgiving
because of that.
I mean, I love Christmas and Thanksgiving, but like I have no desire to be around people except for Aston now. I cannot explain it.
Because that was a traumatic experience that you went through, and the only person that was there with you was your son. Like you guys went through that together.
And then even though talking about it, I just get emotional. I had in my mind, I kept saying, okay, because I know like I had read about like NICU experiences and things like that. So in my mind, I was like, okay, he was born almost 3 months early. So that means that we'll be home by Thanksgiving. Because most of the time, like if your baby comes out at a good size and they don't need a lot of oxygen support, they come home around their due date when you have a NICU baby. That's born as early as Aston. Some babies come home before that due date, but your due date is the ideal time you should be going home. Due date came October 28th, and we weren't home. But I was like, all right, if anything, we'll go home by Thanksgiving. Like, we'll be home. I had got him a onesie and stuff to be home. When Thanksgiving came and my child was not with me, like, I absolutely lost it.
Yeah, that's gotta be so hard. I didn't miss any holidays with my son, but my oldest child, I had to leave him in the hospital after he was born, and I actually was discharged, so I had to go home without my kid. And it was only for a week. Like, your situation is crazy. Like, I couldn't imagine how you were feeling at that time, but I had to leave him there for a week. But like that first feeling, that first day that I went home without my kid, I was looking at an empty crib, and it was like horrible. I wasn't pregnant anymore, but my kid wasn't with me. I just felt like shit.
I tell moms all the time. I tell parents all the time that say that to me, like, "Oh, we weren't there as long as you." I'm always like, listen, I don't know what's more traumatic, being there longer or being there shorter. And I think it's really important not to even compare the trauma. And I actually get like angry with NICU moms or like preemie moms who like make comments like that.
Mm-hmm.
Where they say like, "Oh, you're not really a NICU mom because you were there for a couple days." Once you enter the NICU, like, you're a NICU mom, in my opinion. And I say that because, and this is why I started my blog too. You were 18 years old. You had no freaking idea what the hell the NICU was.
Mm-hmm.
You definitely didn't expect your child to go to the NICU, and you definitely didn't expect a C-section. That is traumatic as fuck.
That was nothing. No one prepared me for that. My entire pregnancy, my doctor never mentioned a C-section.
Do you get what I'm saying? Like, that is so traumatic, and like terrifying, and obviously like something that can like trigger postpartum depression or anxiety. And you never thought that you would have not taking your child home with you was never an option in your mind the 9 months that you were pregnant. So that's why I started like doing like the different things that I did, because I just like, it's so important to educate mamas and parents and families about the NICU just in case. And I'm not saying like, become obsessed and just like be afraid of it, but it's like knowing that it exists and knowing like, okay, if this happens, XYZ, like, okay, my child might have to go to the NICU. Let me find out what the NICU is just in case. Because I've met so many full-term parents that had children in the NICU and they never expected that. That is so scary. I knew I was going to have a NICU baby. I went on a tour of the NICU. I spoke to NICU parents before giving birth. Like, I knew my son would be in the NICU. So I had that privilege of being introduced to it before. So I always send my heart and my love out to people who have no idea what it is. I say that to say like, that's why I try to like post stuff and educate people as much as possible.
Like, even with the C-section blog that you had posted, I brought that up before because I've heard people make ignorant comments about, having a C-section is not equivalent to giving birth to a baby. Like, I've heard all types of shit like that. And I'm like, trust me, like, who else gave birth to these kids? I did it 3 times. I promise it counts. Like,
how do you feel right there after 3 times?
I pretty much have no feeling.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
Yeah, it's numb from kind of like right under my belly button to like right above like my pubic bone.
For real?
Yeah, because think about it. They had to cut into me the same spot 3 times. So every time they cut in, I feel like it got a little bit less sensation. You know what I mean?
My stomach.
So me too. I can't feel it.
Well, no. So my C-section area was numb for like a year.
Mm-hmm.
And the feeling came back. But then, right before my son turned 2, my son was 18 months when I got my kidney transplant, and my kidney transplant cuts into my C-section scar. So my stomach is like kind of numb right now.
Okay.
Below my belly button too.
Yeah, no, mine never came back. I lost the feeling after my first C-section, and it's just been like that ever since. Okay, so one thing that I did want to ask you about one of your blog posts for Mother's Day, which I thought was hilarious, was the text from your baby daddy. Now, I just had this conversation with somebody Do baby daddies get their baby mother a Mother's Day gift? I feel like they should.
I feel like they should.
I'm raising your kid.
Yeah, mine doesn't. Mine didn't. Mine doesn't buy me anything for anything. Because he doesn't want to be a dad. And so he thinks that he shouldn't celebrate me as a mom because he doesn't want to be a dad. Well, he wants to be a dad when it's convenient for him. So
yeah, mine was like that. Well, so I don't know if you know, but I have my older two kids.
Oh yeah, I know. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have two.
I was like, oh, that is so cool.
It's cool.
I think it's cool that you're in your relationship that you're in now, and that you get what I'm saying. Like, yeah. I love like your current relationship and how y'all worked together and you got back together. I guess, and how he stepped up. Like, I just love everything about that.
Oh, thank you.
Podcast. Also, I was telling one of my friends, I was like, people were so nosy. I said, everybody wanted to hear his point of view, which I love. But at the same time, like, sometimes you don't want to have your man I don't have a man, but if I had one, sometimes you don't want to include them in like what you do, because this is like your outlet. But anyway, I say all that to say I love that that y'all have a blended family, and that he doesn't treat your youngest child any differently than your other two children. Yeah,
no, like even before we got back together, he was like that. Like when I was pregnant, calling and checking on me, afterwards calling and checking on me. He was out of state sending clothes and Christmas gifts for all three of my children. Like my youngest son was never not included. And I feel like that was kind of part of the reason that, like, I feel like I fell in love with him again, because if you can love my child like that, that's not your child. I'm going to love you.
Does he ever see his biological dad or no?
So, he has not seen his dad in an entire year. Now it's been a year.
You should just stay gone.
Yeah, I had to make a really hard decision because it was kind of getting to the point where there was no co-parenting relationship without the drama, and it was taking a mental and physical toll on me to the point where, like, I just could not deal anymore. And there was definitely a couple. So there was a couple conversations between his dad and I, and he's expressed to me on more than one occasion that he does not want to be a father to him. I'm all for that. I'm not going to force anybody. But my son is 3 now. He just turned 3 in April. And as he's getting older and starting to talk more, he's asking more about his dad. He obviously remembers him. He calls him by name. Like, he'll be like, when can I go to so-and-so's house? You know, like, he'll ask me specifically. And he also has siblings that he remembers that he's like more and more starting to bring up. So fortunately, I am working on having a good relationship with one of his siblings' moms. One of them I already have a relationship with, so our kids see each other. But it's difficult because my son knows who his dad is. He also knows he hasn't seen his dad, and he's only 3. And it's difficult because when he says things like, I want to go to his house, or can we call him? It's almost like, I want to be truthful with my child, but how do you explain to a 3-year-old that their father's choosing not to be their father? It's heartbreaking.
Yeah, so I'm struggling with that as well. My son knows who his dad is, but not enough to call him by name or to say. My son isn't really verbal. He doesn't talk that much. He says sounds and stuff like that, but he's not really verbal. So he can identify his dad in a picture. He doesn't say dad. He used to say dad, but he stopped. But he stopped because of me, because I stopped saying it. Because I'm like, he's never here. Like, he's never around you. Like, last night was the first time I talked to him in a week because I blocked him and asked him was sick. And so I called him. And then as soon as he got on the phone, he was like, here you go. You're so dramatic. You always want to take him to the hospital and just waste your time. And I hung up on him. I'm like, and this is why we cannot co-parenting with him, trying to co-parent with somebody who doesn't want to co-parent and doesn't want to be a parent will send you into a mental, like, spiral.
And trying to co-parent with somebody who doesn't parent but thinks that they know what's best for the child they don't parent, that's where I'm lost at, because
That's what gets me every time. Okay,
every time.
That's the part that's insane to me. Like, he always had little advice. What do you seen him 15 times in the past 3 years? He never wanted to be a dad, which I knew, and I told him when I decided to continue with my pregnancy, you don't have to be here. I can take care of him myself. He chooses to come in and out, like I said, whenever it's convenient. His parents don't even know that Aston exists.
Are you serious?
Oh, I'm so serious. And whenever anyone in his life asks him about Aston, he denies it. So we used to work together. And so we used to teach for the same charter school system in the same building. We were at 2 different schools, but in the same building. And whenever like former coworkers or students ask him about Aston and me, he's like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't have a kid.
Isn't that so heartbreaking?
No.
Mm-mm. Oh my God. My son's dad used to do the same. And even still, like, he has 4 kids now with 4 different women. And like even his mom sees the other kids, but not mine. Like, I don't like that.
No, that would hurt. That would hurt the crap out of me.
Well, so I'm going to be real with you. I'm white. All his other baby mamas are black. So that's what I think is the situation. My child is the only child that's white. They've made it very clear to me that they don't like me because I'm white. So just keeping it real.
That's fucked up.
Yeah. So I feel like there's a little bit of backlash on my kid.
I hate that.
Yeah.
I just hate that. And I hate that, like, why did you let him come over in the first place? Like, why didn't you just stay out of his life? He has a father.
Yeah.
He don't need y'all. And of course, now he wants to know, can he go over there? And I wonder how much longer he's going to be asking. Like, that hurts to hear that. And so I've said that to my son's dad. I don't want my son to be crying. I don't want my son to do a crying for him. I don't want him to come and then when he leaves, my son is like, no, don't go. No. And somebody was like, well, you can't save your child from heartbreak. They're going to be heartbroken. Guess what? He's not going to be heartbroken right now.
No, he's not.
And he's having no daddy issues. Stay out. Stay gone. Bye. You don't want to be here?
Yeah.
Bye.
So that's how I felt.
So we saw him twice last year. I just realized that. We saw him in April and September of last year. Because when I did see him in April, he like sent me into like this depression. It was the weirdest, craziest thing.
Yes, I had anxiety and depression when I was pregnant with EJ, and then afterwards because of the constant stress and pressure and just everything that I was going through. I went through my whole pregnancy without his dad, pretty much. Like, we were going through it, relationship issues and whatever. But I got to the point where I was kind of like, I kind of want to nip this in the bud before my son is old enough to remember all this inconsistency. So it's kind of like, I'm just going to cut you off now. He's already shown me, my son's 3. He showed me for 2 years straight that he was inconsistent and unreliable. I feel like 2 years is enough time for me to make that decision. So now you're just out. You know what I mean?
It's easier for me to have this conversation with you because I feel the same way, and I just needed a push to like confirm it.
It's hard as hell and it hurts. And you really have to even now, I just told you, like, I don't even know what to say to my son when he asks me where his dad is and if he can go over there. But, you know, eventually he'll stop asking me those questions. And later on, I can tell him the truth about what happened and why his dad wasn't here when he can grasp it. But I feel like it would do more damage on my kid to see his dad, be longing for his dad for months or weeks or however long he goes, and then see his dad again and then go through the same cycle of longing for his dad. I was over that. You know what I mean?
Y'all live in the same city?
Yeah, girl. He lives like 40 minutes away from me.
Oh.
Yeah, like he is not far. He is not far.
That's fucked up.
Yeah.
My son's dad lives 3 hours away.
See, 3 hours, okay. Like, I'll give him a little bit of leeway there, but at the same time,
I said to him, like, you can do every other month. And so this year, I guess he called himself trying to do every other month. So technically, like, he doesn't come again till June. But he just, I have to choose myself over this situation. Like I have to choose I can't be a good mom unless I'm mentally like stable. And his dad just everything is an argument. Everything is an argument. And the fact that like he still doesn't claim Aston, it just shows me that he doesn't really want to be in his life.
It's just like cut your losses because like moms, our whole identities are around our children. Like we find what works for us around our children because at the end of the day, our children is our whole life. So I'm not trying to give you advice. You do what's best for you. But if you're not even claiming my kid, then don't claim my kid and keep it all the way at that. That's how I feel. This turned into a therapy session fast, girl.
I know it did. I don't know what you want to edit, what you want to take out.
Is there anything you don't want me to keep in?
No, because it's not like his dad ever he's not going to listen to the podcast.
I keep it real and raw. I'm not ashamed of shit. I got baby daddies that ain't shit.
And I didn't say his name, but everybody knows who he is. Like if you know me, you know who he is.
Yeah, same with me. If you know me, you know who he is. That's enough.
Yep. And he can deny Aston all he wants to.
But see, like, that's the thing I don't understand. Your son, like, not that it's about, like, how the kid looks, but your son, cute as fuck. My kid, cute as fuck. How are you not claiming that?
My kid is his twin. That's the crazy thing.
Oh, is he? Uh-oh.
I'm about to show you.
See, my baby, I feel like he has my whole face. He has, like, some of his dad's features, but he looks like me.
So my son looks like his dad and my dad.
Okay.
It's the crazy. My dad, all his children look just like him. It's fucking crazy. But I always delete pictures of Aston and his dad. It's because he just makes my skin crawl.
I have a couple that I saved on my phone just to give my kid when he's older, but like
I gave up on that too.
You know what I came to the realization of last night too? My son will never have a photo of his parents together with him.
So I was trying to get a picture with me and Aston and his dad. Because even if his dad is not in his life, or because it seems like his dad is choosing not to be in his life, then I feel like it's important just for him to have a photo, to reference it when he gets older. Like,
yeah, that's how I felt too.
I'm never going to tell him like your dad didn't want to be in your life because I don't want him to blame himself. I want him to understand that like adults make decisions, and I made the decision to have Aston. And his dad made the decision that he didn't want to be a dad and that he wasn't ready and that it wasn't the life that he chose.
Yeah, that's the thing that I feel like I'm always going to need to stress to EJ, that it had absolutely nothing to do with him and everything to do with the choice that his dad made. Like, it's not personal. Because that's something that I struggled with for a long time, was taking it personal, what my dad did.
I'm going to be honest with you.
You never thought to message them like, yo, you have a whole grandchild out here?
I can't. Oh, yeah, I thought about that. I can't get in touch with them though. Like I don't have any type of number or anything for them.
Find them on Facebook.
I tried to find his mom on Facebook and
nothing.
She didn't answer the Facebook request. And me trying to contact his family caused so many issues between me and him because he said I was disrespecting him. And why do I care if Aston knows them?
Bitch, what? Thank you again for coming on the podcast today. Do you want to tell everybody your website and where they can find you on social media?
Yes. So thank you for having me, by the way.
Of course.
And I'm on all social media platforms at Aston's Mama. You can follow me on Pinterest, Instagram, Facebook, which I'm still like new to posting to Facebook. And my website is www.astinsmama.com.
And her blog posts are really good, and your pictures are super cute. So everybody definitely check that out. And I will talk to you guys next week. Bye.
Bye.